and today I'm going to do a three-part video. And the first video is how to make teardrop beads, and the second video is going to be how to make these earrings out of the teardrop beads, and the third video is going to be how to make this bracelet with these teardrop beads. And you're going to need 20 gauge wire, size 6E beads. I used Miyuki because they got good uniform size holes and big enough so that the 20 gauge wire can go through the beads twice. And also you're going to need a lobster claw clasp right here, if you can see it, yeah. And then also you'll need the fishhook ear wires or whatever earring findings you want to use. And you're also going to use the 20 gauge wire and some jump rings for the earrings. So the first video is going to be how to make the teardrop beads. The second video will be for the earrings, and the third video will be for the bracelet. So let's get started. Okay, so in this first video you're going to learn how to make the teardrop beads. And this is basically what they look like. They're a little bit fat on one end and narrow on the other. You know, they're shaped like a teardrop. So what you're going to need is you can use any type of strip that is wide at one end, narrow, or goes down to nothing at the narrow end. And I happen to use a template. This one has 5/8 inch at the wide end and nothing at the narrow end. And I actually do have this template for free if you want to use this particular size, which is what I actually used for the bracelet and the earrings that I'm going to show you how to make in the next two videos. But first off, I'm going to show you how to actually roll the beads. And with this project for the beads, for the bracelet and earrings, I am also going to give you the bead sheet that I actually used for this project. Of course, you can use anything that you want, but I'm just going to go ahead and provide this for free if you want to make them exactly the same. And this template is, like I said, 5/8 inch at the wide end, nothing at the narrow end, and it is available for free at paperbeadcrafts.com in the library under the free printable templates. Okay, so what you're going to do is, if you use this template, you're going to lay it onto your paper that you're going to use for your beads. You can use more than one layer if you want to. Just go ahead and layer them. And this is centered so that you've got about 1/8 of an inch here of extra. You can just roll that up, make a bead out of it, and then you have about 1/4 inch to the 5/8 here. So those are pretty much waste, but you can roll them up, use them as beads. And this, I like doing that for these templates so it makes it easier to cut them. And the way I cut them so that they don't shift on me is I use these binder clips. So I put the binder clips at one end, and I go ahead and I use my guillotine cutter to cut them all the way up until I get to about here. And then I use my rotary cutter to cut the rest of them with my ruler and cutting mat. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cut and be right back. Okay, so I have my strips all cut up. And so you're probably wondering, well, what am I going to do with these, white strips from the template itself? Well, what I'm going to do with them is I'm going to color them and decorate them and roll them up later in another project. Okay, and this is the way I actually like to keep them, is I like to put a binder clip on the end, and that keeps them all together. And then this is one of the scraps, the leftovers. I'll be just rolling that up later and making some beads out of them. These are that front and last, the first and last strips that were on either side of the page. So I'll put those aside for now. And for now, before I start rolling, I like to keep my strips somewhat together. And if I weren't going to roll them up right away, I would go ahead and put the binder clip on them. This one's a little small, so I would probably use 2 binder clips and divide them. And so anyway, let's get started rolling. What you're going to need is you're going to need some glue, and you're going to need some sort of a glue palette and a toothpick. That's how I always apply my glue. You're going to need a paper bead roller. And today I'm going to be using the 5/64 inch slotted paper bead roller that I have in here. This is my favorite one here. And this one has the number 1 stamped on the bottom. And I have these available on my website at paperbeadcrafts.com in the bead rollers section. And you can pay for them through either PayPal, Amazon.com, or Etsy. Just follow the links as you get there. And this container, I actually got this from Amazon. I wanted something to keep my bead rollers in. And for the most part, I can keep my long ones in there, but I just haven't put them in there. I've got my slotted ones and my split pin ones, the short ones in here. Okay, so set that aside. And this is what you're going to achieve. You're going to get these all rolled up. Okay, so the next step in rolling these up to make teardrops is, if you notice, the point of this is actually centered to the wide end. And that's okay. You can use cone strips if you want to, where this would be a 90-degree angle to this corner. Or you can use these here that they're centered, the tip or the point is centered to the wide end, because it doesn't really matter. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with rolling the first bead. Put the glue, well, let's see, it's probably plugged. Okay. Open that up, put a little bit of glue in there, and I'm not going to put the glue on until the very end, so that way I can adjust it and make it into a teardrop. And that's the whole purpose of this video, is to show you how to make teardrop beads from regular old paper beads. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and roll it up as you normally would, slide it onto your bead roller, and just start rolling. And you don't really have to be super careful of where it's going at this point. Just roll it up and roll it up. If you want to work it toward one end or the other, that's fine. That's how teardrops work. Okay, and then I'm going to glue the very end to keep that in place. And once it's rolled, you're going to hang on to it for a few seconds so it will stay. Okay, and you're thinking to yourself, this is a bicone. Well, I'll show you how to get the little rounded bottom. This is how I made all of these, where it's round on the bottom and pointy at the end. It looks like a teardrop. Okay, so I'm going to decide which end looks a little bit closer to a teardrop. Take it off the bead roller, and I'm going to push this end up. And sometimes you might want to push it all the way so it's almost flat, and push it. You just basically adjust it until you like the way it looks. It can go either way, as long as you got a round bottom on one end and a pointy end at the other. They're not all going to be perfect. That's okay. And you're going to want to work it until it's actually the shape that you want it to be. And you want a round bottom, and that's pretty close. So I'm going to do that again. Roll it up. And just keep rolling, keep rolling. If it works toward one end, that's fine. Because these are not centered at all because they're teardrops. Now with the templates that you can use cone templates for cones. You can use basic regular down to nothing at the narrow end templates. You can also use you know, down to an 1/8 inch, down to a 1/16 inch type of template. It's really up to you with the look that you're after. Okay, so this one here, I'm going to try to make this a little bit rounded on the bottom. Pull that down just a little bit. And that looks pretty good to me. That's pretty rounded. That looks like a teardrop. And that's basically how I make my teardrop beads. I don't worry about, you know, cutting the template special just for this. Generally a teardrop, the widest end is like 1/3 to 1/4 from the end of the bead, the fat end. So that's basically it. This one's about 1/4, but you can go 1/4 to 1/3 from one end or the other to get your teardrop bead. If you wanted to do a cone bead, just go ahead and and push down on the bottom and you've got a cone bead. But we're doing teardrops today. So push that back in and adjust it until it's round on one end. And that's it. That's a teardrop bead. Okay, then the next video is how to actually make the earrings. So go ahead and look for the link on that, and hopefully it'll be done by then. So go ahead and watch for the next video. It'll be on how to make these sweetheart earrings. That's what I call them, because the two teardrops kind of make hearts. Alright, till next time.